If you could design your dream culture, what would be like?
Organizations that have a high level of trust, a high level of candor, they have a 60% better chance at innovation as compared to peers. A stands for accountability. It's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to fail, but don't pass the blame game. And imagine an organization where feedback is a gift, not just manager to employee, but both ways. Because somehow the world seems to have changed post-COVID, right? This wasn't the way pre-COVID, and after COVID, everyone's just feeling this overload. How they make a deadline feel like a pressure cooker or a learning opportunity. Establish that culture is really important in organizations. I think this is a completely different generation. We haven't never seen this before. So complaints are of different types, right? Some can be solved with a dolo, some can be solved with a surgery. You can't hide behind a story. Eventually the truth gets out. Employees need to feel dignified and respected even at the time of layoffs. Ultimately, your clients don't just buy your products. They see through your culture.
What's happening in the background? How is HR handling this uncertainty?
Culture is like a silent brand ambassador. And that's why I said culture is a business tool. It's not a HR checkbox item any longer.
Would you join a company if you loved the role but feared the culture?
That's like asking me, would I marry into a family that I did not like? I think the honeymoon would be exciting, but the daily meals will be a nightmare, right? Employees live and breathe culture every day, but very few have the words to describe it. Because you're in HR, do you do rangoli?
Hello and welcome everyone for the very first episode of Inside Corporate Cultures. So, the idea of this podcast started with a very simple conversation. One day, someone came up to me and said, Swati, my office says that their culture is amazing. But if their culture is so amazing, why do I feel so disconnected? And then this line stayed with me forever. Decoding real behavior and cultures became a part of my life. And that's how Inside Corporate Cultures was born. The heart of this show is to peel the layers of what culture actually means to all the organizations. This space is going to be your space to see how the workplaces look like you have never seen it before. For every employees, leaders, and even clients. It's a place to discover how cultures can be built, lived, and celebrated. And that is why we all are here for Inside Corporate Cultures, where the world celebrates you. And you know what? I couldn't have asked for a better guest today because she is someone who has 15 plus years of experience across varied industries like banking, IT, media, and whatnot. Today, being the senior vice president at one of the leading MNCs of the world, she brings in a lot of experiences and she doesn't just design the HR strategies, but also lives and breathes culture every day. Apart from her corporate success, she carries a lot of other passions for her communication, mentoring people, and giving back to the society, curiosity about knowing people. She is someone who is a storyteller at heart and an impact leader. So please join me in welcoming someone very special from our corporate world, Brynel Lobo.
Wow.
Hello, Brynel.
Hi, Swati.
Thanks for being the part of our very first episode of Inside Corporate Cultures.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I am so excited and happy to be here today. And I was just listening to the way you introduced me. And yes, I think it's been quite a long journey. But across all of the industries I worked, you're right, people were the common thread, right? And at the heart of people lies human behavior, and at the heart of human behavior is culture. So I'm very excited today to keep aside the buzzwords and, like you said, peel it layer by layer and do some bit of learning and growing.
Great. So we are very excited and privileged to have you today. So you've seen that we're talking a lot about culture, and that's the essence of this entire episode, and not just the episode, our entire series. So let's just dive into the questionnaire if you permit so.
Ready. Let's begin.
That's great. So, Brynel, I just want to know, when someone says that we have an amazing culture, so what does that really mean to them?
Well, let's start by this. Research says that 9 out of 10 employees would trade a pay raise for a better boss, a better culture. Imagine that. They would give up more money in order not to dread a Monday morning, right? So when people say, what is an amazing culture? It makes me wonder, is it amazing like, let's say, Pani Puri on the streets of Mumbai? You love it, you crave, you want more of it? Or is it amazing like the potholes on the streets of Mumbai that you whine and you groan, but you can't do anything? You're stuck with it. I think in today's world, and personally for me, corporate culture is not so much about your Secret Santa or your Fun Fridays. And don't get me wrong, those are important. But I think it's more about psychological safety. As an employee, can I tell my manager respectfully, I have a different point of view? And instead of being shut down, I hear, tell me more. And this reminds me, at the start of my career, way back, we were all so shy to give our opinion at work. And one of my colleagues, one day he mastered the courage and said, Sir, I think of something in a different way. And we all held our breath. And our manager told him, okay, tell me more. I want to hear you. And from that day onwards, we grew some courage, right? So I think for all of us, corporate culture is more about, can I be my authentic self at work? Do I have a voice? Does my voice count? So it's less about, free pizzas. It's more about looking forward to the Monday morning.
Wow, I think that's a great insight because this is what something that we all are looking for and experiencing something like this in our work culture at our workplaces. So, going ahead, for what you just mentioned, I would also like to know that how can middle managers and junior employees make a difference to culture?
Okay. A middle manager can decide whether a deadline feels like a pressure cooker exploding or whether it can feel like a learning and growth opportunity. Because Gallup research says that 70% of employee engagement is based on the middle manager, and that's a whooping amount of power in the hands of a middle manager. So, a simple example, if your phone were to ring right now and it's your boss, would you smile? Would you frown? Would you be anxious? And I think that speaks volumes of the culture of the organization.
Right.
Right? So, just modeling respect, being gracious, sharing credit, giving feedback, simple acts, but they have a ripple effect. But I wouldn't say it's only the job of the middle manager because the middle manager, of course, sets the tone, the micro cultures within the team, but it's the teammates, the employees, the individual contributors, they're the arms and legs of the organization. They are the culture carriers, right? So how they believe in their daily interactions, that's really what becomes the culture of the organization.
Okay. So you mean to say that if my boss is calling me and if I am not really worried or furious to pick his call, or in a way I can't pick his call and I'm just completely normal about this entire fact, then I am maybe at a better workplace?
Yes, absolutely. Because you're not dreading that if I don't answer my boss, he's going to get angry, he's going to be upset. It's going to, show up in a retaliation somewhere else, right? There is a level of trust that maybe you're busy and you will call back. So trust when you cannot be seen is a very important factor of psychological safety.
So, Brunel, right now we all are struggling with something that is called as AI and hybrid work culture.
Yeah.
These are the buzzwords right now. So, what do you think is the toughest challenge for everyone, whether it's an employee or a particular organization, in terms of AI and hybrid work cultures?
So, Swati, when you invited me here, I did a little bit of reading and research. And Microsoft Work Report says that, listen to this, it's shocking. Employees are interrupted every 2 minutes by meetings, calls, pings, emails, every 2 minutes. And another report says that employees check their emails on the phone as early as 6 a.m. while still in bed. It can be shocking, right? So I think for me, what is the biggest challenge in today's world across is FOMO, fear of AI that it will replace you. All you need to do is open the newspapers and there you have it hitting you hard. The second is overload of meetings, information, work hours, emails, just overload of everything. And I think the third is missing out. When you work hybrid or you're working across the world, there is that constant anxiety of visibility. Am I being missed out, right? And then this brings us to what is the culture challenge in the organization. And I think workplaces now need to be designed in such a way that employees do not feel like you're 24/7 in an audition. It can get very tiring. I think the second thing is to change the narrative from fear of AI to empowerment by AI.
Okay.
Right? You don't need to fear that AI will replace you, but you need to upskill yourself. And I think the third is balancing a very fine balance between tech efficiency and human connections. While technology is very good, you cannot sideline the human being. And I think this is the culture challenge of the workplace today.
So, Pranay, I really, really loved your analogy about FOMO. That's amazing. Could you please repeat that for our audiences?
Yeah, sure, Swati. I think the way I describe FOMO is number one, F, fear of AI replacing you.
Okay.
O stands for overload of data, information, emails, meetings, all of that. And MO is missing out. When you work remote or hybrid across the world, there is that visibility anxiety that is a serious factor these days.
Wow. So today we have actually changed the definition of FOMO. So yes, that's the new definition for us. It's amazing to know all this. So going ahead, I would want to know you as a challenge as an HR. So I want to know that given your HR experience, how important is the role of HR in shaping organization culture?
Okay. See, I'll look at it like this, that the leadership team of any organization set the destination or the strategy, but it's HR that actually decides the roadmap or the journey, right?
Right.
From the time somebody is onboarded to their whole career journey, promotions, recognition, benefits, wellness, all of it. It's HR that really sets the tone if an employee feels respected and valued or they just feel like a payroll number, right? And a really good HR leader is not like a compliance policeman or a teacher, but more like a culture architect. They design systems that are fair, that are transparent, that create a psychological safe environment for employees. But it's not just the HR job, right? Because I feel HR is a team, but there are 10 other departments in the organization.
Okay.
So it requires everyone then to be culture carriers and practice this culture in their everyday interaction. So the leaders set the vision. HR is like the oxygen mask, but everyone else are like the hands and the veins and the arteries of the organization.
Okay. So, Brinel, I had actually put up a survey before, shooting this podcast, and I had asked people that, if you have certain things that's in your mind and would love to ask our industry experts. So, there was this question that caught my attention and it had maximum votes for it. So, they wanted to know that, when HR is building all this organizational culture and the strategies, and when the employees actually reach out to the HR for their grievances or their questionnaires, so HR, are they really considering that?
You mean if an employee raises a grievance?
Yes.
I think absolutely. When an employee raises a grievance, very often I would describe grievance like a medical condition, right? Some can be solved with a paracetamol, some can be solved with a surgery, right? And HR would look into the situation. And very often you see that maybe it's a misunderstanding between the manager employee or it's a work overload, it's a leadership style. And a well-mediated coaching conversation will solve what a 30-page report may not be able to solve. Or sometimes it's something that's much more deeper and you require an investigation and a committee to kind of review the findings, and then HR would get into it. The job of HR, or the goal, let me say, is to fix the problem but protect the employee. So I don't think employees have anything to really worry about.
Wow. So that's a big breather to all of us that HR does take our grievances very seriously. Thank you for that, Brinel. So going ahead, I would want to ask you, if you could design your dream culture, what would be like? If Brinel had the power to design her dream culture, what would it be like?
Yeah, so sometimes I think that is a time for me to have my own startup. And if I do, what should I look like the culture be like, right? So again, research says that organizations that have a high level of trust, a high level of candor, they have a 60% better chance at innovation as compared to peers. So if I had to start my own place, the culture would be one of candor and compassion side by side. I call it the CAR formula, okay?
Okay.
C is candor, which means be your authentic self. There's nothing to worry and be scared or fear at work. Bring your own voice to work. I think A stands for accountability. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fail, but don't pass the blame game,
Wow.
Don't make excuses. Stand up for it. And I think R is respect at all levels and all titles. I'm saying this because I know that in the past, bigger corporates in India, I have seen this. There are different cafeterias and different lifts and different washrooms for different hierarchy level people. And I feel everyone needs to be treated with the same level of respect and dignity in the office place, right? And I recall at the start of my career, one of my managers telling me, Brunel, I'll be blunt when you make a mistake, but I will be even louder when you're brilliant.
Okay.
And imagine an organization where feedback is a gift, not just manager to employee, but both ways. So I think that would be my dream culture with oodles of fun and laughter, because at the end of the day, you want a workplace that is enjoyable if you're spending 10 hours there, right? So all of these ingredients mixed together creates a fertile soil for an innovative organization.
Wow. So it's the car culture, right? CAR.
culture.
So any founder who is trying to build their own organization should actually focus on something called as car culture, which is just discovered by Brunel. Okay, Brennan. So that's about you. But just being into this industry for, say, more than 15 years right now, when you've been continuously interacting with the employees, the candidates in the company, what do you think that given a chance to a particular employee, what would they change about a company's culture?
Okay, I think that's an interesting one. Not very different from what I think, but Microsoft survey says that employees spend close to 60% of their day in meetings and replying to emails, and only 40% is actually on doing real work. So I believe employees may want to fix that imbalance. But if I keep aside the calendars and all of that, I think they may want to fix something called ROI. And what does ROI stand for, right? R stands for remove politics. Focus on real work, appreciate genuinely, remove the politics, or at least reduce the politics, right? Always opportunities. And very often when you read HR publications, you see that the first time an employee had a career opportunity conversation with their manager was when they put down their papers. And I believe that's a wound that we need to heal. And I stands for inclusion. You want to belong, you want to feel valued, you want to feel recognized, and you want to have a voice at the table, right? So I believe that if you give employees ROI in culture, they will give you ROI in performance.
So, Brunel, you just mentioned about, employees spending a lot of time in reporting and attending those unwanted and maybe wanted meetings. But a lot of their time and effort during the day goes into all these aspects. So, as an HR, how are you been discussing with managers so that you can actually extract and remove some time out of this and reduce this activity?
I think that's a very important question because somehow the world seems to have changed post-COVID, right? This wasn't the way pre-COVID and after COVID, everyone's just feeling this overload. But I think there are multiple steps that organizations are doing. And I think the first thing, like we discussed earlier, is managers, 70% of engagement depends upon the manager, right? How they make a deadline feel like a pressure cooker or a learning opportunity. And I think it's important for managers to be able to guide and coach their team how to prioritize what's important, what's urgent, what can be passed on to help the team make that distinguish, right? I think another thing is also to give your team the opportunity to express back when they're feeling overwhelmed or they need to increase the timeline or the deadline. That psychological safe environment that people don't need to work overnight, but they can say that we need extended time, right? And HR all over organizations today are talking about wellness. What more they can do for employees, help employees take a break, a little bit of stretch during the day, fun Fridays, days where there is no Zoom, no meeting, just focus on your own development. So these are practices that HR managers, leadership team are putting into play across organizations. I think the important thing is for employees to kind of pick up on these practices and intentionally carve out time for your development, intentionally carve out time to go with your team for lunch. Some of the items need to be a little bit more intentional.
So, Brunel, what does culture mean to you in 2025? Which actually means what does culture mean to Gen Z and the upcoming Gen Alphas?
I think by now we've established that culture is really important in organizations and it helps retain employees, it helps innovation, productivity, all of it, right? But really, what is culture? It's an abstract word to define, but if I were to define it, I would think the experience of belonging in an organization. I feel trusted when I work from home and no one sees me. I feel valued. I feel recognized. I feel I can bring my real self to work. And I think with Gen Z, all the more, what they're looking for is meaning in their job. What is the purpose of my role? How am I adding value to the organization, to the community, to the world at large? They're very passionate about like let's say the environment, right? So does my organization speak to things like this, right? So what they're really looking for is, do I belong here? Does my voice count? And does my work really give meaning?
And they're very open about their thought process.
Absolutely.
And I think the millennials, were not very open about those
I
questions.
think this is a completely different generation. We haven't never seen this before.
And sometimes maybe we are not even prepared and comfortable with what they are saying, right?
Yeah, because I think there's several generations right now in the organization, right? You have people who, like they call it the baby boomers, who may have been born in the 50s and 60s, and then you have the Gen Z, and all of you working together in a team.
Okay. So what about Gen Alpha? If this is the scenario currently with the Gen Z, what do you foresee coming years down the line? How would be the culture perceived by Gen Alpha?
Gen Alpha, right? I think Gen Z, as of today, it's not the easiest to work in a corporate with Gen Z and all of the generations together, but there's a lot we can learn from Gen Z. And I know corporates that do reverse mentoring programs just to see what we can learn and pick up from the new generation. And I think Gen Alpha, I think they're yet to hit the corporate world. But if I look at kids and teens of today, they are so opinionated because
Absolutely.
it is taught to them in schools, right? How to voice your opinion, how to stand up for yourself, how to be confident. So I think I really envy them. And India is in a different growth phase today, right? So I think Gen Alpha is going to bring a completely different culture in a different India. And it's something to actually look forward to because, old is good, but there's always something new to learn.
Oh, so we can foresee them bringing the culture revolution in India?
I would hope we don't have to wait for them, but definitely that there
That-
will be a big part of that culture
That-
revolution.
I second everything that you just said. I love that. Now we're talking a lot about culture, but the heart of the culture, if for everyone, if we ask any particular employee in a company, heart of the culture comes a lot from the leadership, from the manager, what they think about, how they are in the organization when they work with them. So I would like to know that, there were questions that were coming in from employees that if I complain about my manager, will HR keep it confidential or will my manager find out that I am the one who had made this complaint?
HR will definitely keep it confidential.
Okay,
Right?
that's a breather for us.
Yes, HR will keep it private and confidential, but you need to remember that in order to fix a problem, the behavior needs to be surfaced. But a good HR will do it in a way where, they're not going to be holding a signboard over your head saying that you're the complainant. They will figure out trends and patterns to solve for the problem. But rest assured, HR will keep it confidential because their goal is to fix the problem, to protect the employee. And confidentiality, we need to understand, is not for the purpose of secrecy, it's for the purpose of protection.
Okay, so Brinell, so coming and stitching back to the next question is that when a complaint is filed against a manager, so is there a informal chat that's happening or it's a formal investigation or a formal meeting that happens after the complaint has been filed?
So complaints are of different types, right? Some can be solved with a dolo, some can be solved with a surgery, right? So when I mean that, I mean if it's a full blown, let's say in India we have the Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act, right? So let's say if it's posh, then of course it requires a deep investigation, a committee, and all of that. But let's say it's a managerial style, or there's a difference between there's a miscommunication or a workload balance, right? And I think those are more solved through coaching session with the manager and the employee, like a well planned mediated session that can work wonders as compared to like a 50-page report.
Okay, so are these things documented by the HR?
When you mean documented by the HR, what do you mean?
I mean, because there are certain appraisal cycles that happen, and there's a lot of 360 feedback and a lot of things happening. So at that time, when the manager kind of, gives a particular kind of feedback and the employee is not convinced with it, do they have that authority to say that, to come up to HR and say that, we've already complained this during the course of a year and we knew something like that would actually turn up during the appraisal. So are these things documented and as an evidence?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Managers document feedback. Employees have the right to, voice their grievances in case they don't agree with things like this. But even managers have the right to voice their grievances in case, they feel that their feedback is being taken in a wrong way.
All
So
right.
I think everyone at the end of the day is an employee of the organization, and everyone has a fair voice.
Okay, so that is something that we all of us wanted to know, and we have an answer to that. We want to know that, the managers, a lot of managers have those old school feedback styles. So we want to know that are there any initiative taken by HR and the organization to train the managers in the new age feedback styles?
I think you're absolutely bang on. Firstly, old age feedback style, more like because I told you to do it, you have to do it. That really does not help in today's world, right? It's more a command and control, and it's best suited for where it is. But in the corporate style, coaching style is what really works. And I think a lot of research and survey has said that employees who are given feedback via coaching, they have like a 48% chance of being more engaged, right? So there are definitely a lot of programs for new managers, for experienced managers, for first time managers, managers with smaller teams, larger teams, right? On how to give feedback, how to delegate, how to transition from a manager into a leader, from an individual contributor into a manager, right? So the old school feedback style was you're wrong. A coaching style is more like, how can I support you to get it better right next time, right? So
Okay.
definitely there are lots of programs to develop managers into being coaches for their own teams. But one thing I want to call out is that feedback, whenever it's given, it should be one-to-one, right? Especially if it's developmental feedback or, improvement feedback. Whereas praise should be in front of everyone else.
I agree.
A lot of times managers get it wrong and you just wonder, isn't this so simple?
Right. So, friends, if you've been thinking that the programs are just for you, it's not the case. A lot of training and feedback style programs are also happening for the mid managers and the leadership as well. Okay, so next is going to be our favorite question. Like most of us are going to love that question. So, RTO, return to office, is the latest buzzword.
Yep.
And people say that, our work is going very smoothly and swiftly in at our home. So, does being in the four walls of office very necessary for our work to happen more swiftly, whether things are really happening in a very good way?
I think we need to understand why organizations are calling people back to work, right? Because there is this fear that the connection between teams will get diluted, in my personal opinion. I know employees crave flexibility, and who doesn't, right? And that's why I believe the hybrid workplace is a win-win for everyone, and it's here to stay because you get the flexibility you want, but at the same time in an organization, the social interaction, the team bonding, the connection, the rituals of even doing your Friday lunch or your coffee connect, that stays, right? And culture really is in our daily interactions with each other, whether it's on Zoom or whether it's face to face, but you need to be intentional about building some of these rituals. So I think what really works is the hybrid workplace because it's a blend of both wins for employees as well as organizations.
Okay, that's great. So going ahead, I would want to know that, right now, if couple of months back, if someone would ask me, what's trending in corporate ladder? So I would say AI or maybe something related to robotics, artificial intelligence. But today, what's trending is layoffs with TCS, Oracle, Microsoft, and many other companies who are actually laying off people.
Yes.
I want to know what is happening at the background. How are HRs handling this? How is this uncertainty being handled by HR?
Let me start with some research, okay? MIT Sloan says that how a company handles their layoffs has a larger impact on their culture than any number of pay increases may be able to solve.
I totally agree to that.
Right? And I think when companies are laying off employees, couple of points they really need to get right. For me, first, I would say accountability, where leaders need to own the decision, right? It comes from the top of the house. Second is transparency, communication rather. Transparency. Because you can't hide behind a story. Eventually, the truth gets out. And the biggest antidote to fear is transparency. And I think empathy. Employees need to feel dignified and respected even at the time of layoffs. So you get this right, and your trust will still survive. But I think for employees particularly, you can control what you can control. Beyond you can't, right? So what you can control are upskilling yourself, um, building your network, staying adaptable. Layoffs will continue, but you just need to protect your self worth.
But what's happening in the background? How is HR handling this uncertainty?
I think HR works in partnership with the leadership team, right? At the end of the day, it's not about each individual, it's about the organization, it's about doing what's right for the clients, it's about survival of the fittest, right? So you have to look at your expenses, what is your revenue, what is your headcount, and take some of these tough calls. How employees get identified is basis so many different factors and criterias, right? But there is a lot of back end work that actually happens, a lot of decisions, a lot of discussions with the legal team, with the labor relations, all of that, right? And then it finally comes down to this kind of a decision.
Okay. So, how is this being done with empathy?
I think during COVID, when again companies were doing a lot of layoffs, right? Because everything was hit. I read a story in a publication that spoke about how the CEO entered a town hall, and his words were this, something like this. Today, some of you will leave with jobs. Today, some of you will leave without jobs, but all of you will leave with honesty.
Okay.
Simple words, but there was respect for everyone. And I think that is empathy.
Oh, wow. I really love that. Okay, so of course the HRs are being empathetic, and we feel this has been very brutal on front of all the organizations. But as we just got to know, HR are considering the empathy factor as well. So in 2025, do you think an organization can actually succeed without considering the culture quotient?
I think not just 2025, I think throughout, organizations need to know what is the culture climate in an organization. It's like starting your own restaurant, but not knowing how the food tastes. It doesn't work, right? And especially in 2025, when you have a mix of Gen Z and AI and hybrid and geopolitical situations and whatnot, you want to know what your employees are thinking. Do they feel
Absolutely.
valued and respected and trusted and recognized and all of that, right? So I don't think we can any longer say that culture is the HR tick mark item.
Yeah.
Because companies that really succeed are the ones that treat it like a living being. They have listening tools, they have stay interviews, they have pulse surveys, and they do it regularly, right? Because culture is just like the weather. It can change faster than you even realize it.
Okay. So, do you agree with me that should every organization run a cultural survey to understand what the employees feel about them at the end of the day?
Absolutely. And maybe more often than annually.
Right. So I think cultural survey is something that every organization should take it very seriously. And I think even if it's an organization of say 20 employees or 25 employees to 2,500 to 2,50,000, I think everyone should do it, right?
Because I think it's more like a business tool now. Your financial reports will show your profit and revenue, but it won't talk about your turnover, lack of innovation, engagement. That the cultural survey will talk about.
Right. I think that is a very good takeaway for all of us. So, I was just going through a lot of surveys and articles about leadership. I found few very interesting articles, and I would like to put up certain questions about them as well. So, I had heard that Satya Nadella said that we can do better. We'll do better. In your opinion, what does doing better actually mean for culture?
Doing better for culture is ensuring that there is candor, compassion, empathy in all of your conversations. For example, empathy in daily interactions, employees across the organization. You walk the talk. Resilience when there is lack of trust in the system. Candor and an ability to be your authentic self, even in tough conversations. So it's not so much about the speeches, the posters,
Okay.
the office parties. Those are important. I'm not trivializing them, but I think it goes much deeper into, like we've been talking about, do I have a voice and do I belong over here? Is there a sense of safety around me?
So I assume that again he is touch basing majorly on the point of culture. So a recent UK US study found 70% of employees say work culture is their top priority. But when people say this, what do you really mean? A friendly team, a sense of belongingness, or is there something very deeper?
I think it's all three what you said. A friendly team is very, very important because otherwise you don't want to be working 10 hours in a hostile environment. So that's important. I think a sense of belonging, definitely. You want to feel included, valued. Your opinion must matter. But I think, like we were saying, right, Gen Zs also want a sense of meaning, and everybody wants a sense of meaning. How am I being able to contribute to the organization? What am I doing? Does it have some value, some purpose?
Okay.
Am I able to bring my best self to the 9 hours that I'm there at work? So, this is exactly what people are talking about when they say that, they want a culture that really is a strong culture.
Okay. Right. So, when clients know your work ethic and culture, doesn't it also strengthen your business relationships and attract the right clients?
Yes, it does. It has to. Because ultimately, your clients don't just buy your products, they see through your culture, right?
Right.
How you and I interact with each other will spill into the client. And if it's toxic, that toxicity will leak. If it's a great culture, that will also shine.
Right.
So, culture is like a silent brand ambassador.
Absolutely.
It will, a client, if he's sitting here, within 5 minutes of interacting with us, he'll know whether we're being transparent or honest or respectful. And more often than not, that will be the decision whether to do business with us or no.
Right. So, you know what? Back then, even when I was working in corporates, I realized that when employees are happy, that reflects in your work, and ultimately, you tend to make your clients happy, and eventually, the clients
Yes.
become more happy. So that eventually is like getting you more businesses. So basically, it's an underrated statement. It's an underlying statement that we all have to understand that culture reflects somewhere and gets you more business,
That's right.
directly or indirectly.
That's right. And that's why I said culture is a business tool. It's not a HR checkbox item any longer.
So, given a chance, Vinay, I want to ask you, would you join a company if you loved the role but feared the culture?
Swati, that's like asking me, would I marry into a family that I did not like? I think the honeymoon would be exciting, but the daily meals will be a nightmare, right? Because I honestly feel that a great role in a company that the culture is toxic will soon turn into a nightmare because the culture will eat up the role.
Absolutely.
If I were to personally choose, I would choose an average role, but in a company with a great culture, because at 7 p.m. in the evening, it is not the role, but the culture that will drain you out.
So, Brunel, I want to know how will this make a difference in every employee's, leaders, and client's life in understanding and shaping the culture in their life and organization?
Well, Swati, I personally feel that employees live and breathe culture every day, but very few have the words to describe it because it is an abstract concept. And I believe ICC will be that channel that gives them the language to use. So if employees get an opportunity to articulate the culture they experience, let's say the managers get a chance to see what are the microcultures they're creating in a team. And then the leaders get a chance to see the big picture. Even people who are interested, candidates interested in joining an organization will get a first-hand view of, what is the culture of an organization to make an informed choice. So I think I see a great future for this because culture generally grows in silence, but you need dialogue to transform. And I believe ICC can be that platform that gives them that dialogue.
So, I would like to have no answer to one of the questions that most of us millennials and mid managers are facing. So everyone feels that the Gen Zs come out with a lot of arrogance. So how can we help Gen Zs getting absorbed easily into our work culture?
Okay, firstly, I'd really like to correct the notion that Gen Zs come up with arrogance. I think having your voice and having an opinion does not mean you're arrogant. I know that a lot of the engagement and the initial experience of any employee is very much dependent on their manager. So a good manager will prepare a really good induction plan, an orientation plan for the first 3 months, let's say, right?
Okay.
Give you a buddy, help you to understand the acronyms in the organization, will show you where to go for lunch, will just put their arms around you and get you into the culture of the organization, right? So a lot about a new employee, especially a Gen Z joining an organization, lies in the hands of their direct manager.
Okay. So, in case you're complaining about your arrogant Gen Zs, according to Brunel, what we need to do is prepare a very good orientation plan and we have to assign them a buddy and give them that required love, warmth, and support, right?
Yeah, because they are coming in excited, full of new ideas, thoughts, creativity. We don't want to kind of stop them, right? We want to encourage them, but fine tune them. They're coming out from campus, the corporate world is different, and you need your manager to help you with that.
Quick guide for mid managers. So, Brunel, right now we have a very fun segment for all the guests coming out on our ICC channel. So, that's called as Fun Rapid Fire segment. So, are you ready for that?
Shoot.
Great. So, let me just shoot the questions. Culture in one word, what does it mean to you?
Adaptable.
Okay. Free coffee or flexible Fridays, what builds better culture?
Flexible Fridays.
Okay. Rate this from most to least important for the employees. Pay, manager, growth, culture.
That's a tricky one because all are so important and one depends on the other. There's a ripple effect. But if I were to say right at the top, manager, culture, growth, pay.
Okay.
Pay at the bottom, manager at the top.
Okay.
Yeah.
One corporate buzzword you wish would disappear forever.
Layoffs.
Wow. I agree with you. Gen Z or Gen Alpha, who's going to change workplaces now?
I think Gen Z has started the revolution. Gen Alpha will just continue it.
And follow it. Yeah. Layoffs handled with empathy or with transparency. If you had to pick one.
Transparency, empathy, they go together, but transparency.
Okay. Open office or work from home? Your honest pick.
Open office.
Okay. If HR had a superhero power, what would it be?
To listen to all the buzzwords that people use about HR. I often hear people, when they ask me, so you're in HR, do you do Rangoli? I get so insulted.
That's so
I
true.
really want to go into people's minds and change the thought about HR.
Yeah, the Rangoli competition. A mistake you see managers repeating again and again?
The HR told me to do this is what they tell the employees. And as a leader, a manager is a leader, right? You need to own the decision yourself.
Okay. If you had to choose a hashtag for workplace culture in 2025, what would it be?
Resilience.
Great. Wow, that was a fantastic fun fire segment.
I loved it. I had fun throughout the last 1 hour.
Wow, that's amazing. So, Brunel, we have been discussing a lot about the real challenges of people and the fresh perspectives that you brought about work culture. So now I would like to move to one of our signature segments that we have introduced at Inside Corporate Cultures. And ask me what?
Okay, tell me what is this?
So it's called as the Sutra moment. So we are here with a Sutrapedia. So every guest that comes in leaves us with a sutra. A sutra is a wisdom tied to a thread. And that's one timeless thought process or a thought that you want to leave with our audiences. So, Brunel, today I want to know from you what is that one distilled truth, one sutra that you want to leave our professionals, our listeners today that they can carry forever at their workplace, at their teams, or even in their lives?
Every action at work is a vote towards the culture.
Okay.
Because you can make culture, you can break culture. It depends on each one's actions. The way you show up is what the culture gets determined in an organization. So every action at work is a vote towards the culture.
Wow. Every action at work is a vote towards a culture. Beautiful. And we really would like to document this in our Sutrapedia if you mind doing it. So, yeah. Wow. I'm so excited looking at her document this in our Sutrapedia. Because the workplace culture isn't just an internal story. It is something that the world deserves to see. And that's what we are here for. Inside Corporate Cultures, where the world celebrates you. What a rich and amazing conversation we had today. But you know what? This was really a masterclass of what culture actually is for an organization. And Brunel today helped us decode what the word amazing culture actually is. It's not just about the free coffee and the work from home policies. It's much deeper. It's about respect, it's about dignity, and it's about the human connection. And from this episode, what takeaway that I have in terms of 2025 is that a successful organization is the one which takes culture as more priority about people than about processes. Am I right?
Absolutely. Like we said, it's the business tool.
It's the business tool. And first of all, I would like to really thank Brunel, because just a phone call from my end and telling Brunel that Brunel, we're just starting with this initiative and we really want some dynamic personality like you to launch our episode. And it was just one phone call and Brunel just agreed to this to be an first guest for our episode. And she's here sitting in front of us, sharing all the insights that she had from her industry experience. Thanks for that.
I want to
Brunel.
say a big thank you. I totally enjoyed my time here. And your questions made me reflect. And when you reflect, you just learn and grow more. So I think we've peeled a lot of layers today. But more than anything, I had a lot of fun. So thank you.
So, friends, culture grows only when it's shared. So, if you felt that this conversation made even a little sense, please hit like, subscribe, share it to your friends and family, and leave a small feedback for us. Thank you, and stay tuned for more episodes.